Keegan O'Toole here in Mizzou. One last ride for you. How have you been feeling, man? Just catch us up. We haven't spoken to you in a while, and just kind of catch us up. How are you feeling?
Feel very good. Obviously, this November for our schedule was pretty tough. We wrestled 8 matches, which is I feel like double than what majority people have right now. So now we have a little bit of break from competition. Some of the guys are going over to Edwardsville this weekend. Otherwise, good. Just trying to keep my body healthy, but also push my limits in training to get better every day. Technically, strength, and conditioning as well, and in my mind.
Talk about obviously the summer before we get into college. How do you assess your summer? You were pretty active, pretty busy, seen you in a couple big tournaments, and how do you think you did this summer?
Yeah, I mean the beginning of the summer was heartbreaking. I was really looking forward to wrestling in the Olympic trials, but in my last match at nationals, I kind of blew out my MCL a little bit, so I needed some time. I tried to train for it, but eventually I realized that if I went back in that tournament, I was going to really do some damage on my knee. So that was really sad. It's still down bad about that always, just because it's a missed opportunity for an Olympic team and a great experience just to get better. But this summer, I was just really active in my training, just trying to rehab my knee as much as I could, and then on top of that, in the room all the time, and making sure since I was going up a weight class, if I was traveling or if I was going back to Wisconsin to visit family. Making sure I'm getting my lifting in, making sure I'm getting my meals in, and just doing everything that I can to put some strength and size on, because it's a 9-pound jump, which is not too bad, but definitely requires a good amount of effort, and still requires effort, making sure I'm continuing to lift. And then obviously on top of that, the end of the summer from August to October was just so busy. I was building a house here in Columbia and moved into that in September, and then a week later I got married. So it was a very, very busy end of the summer, beginning of the school year.
Well, congratulations on that. And
Thank
everything. Talk about kind of, before we get into college, senior world team trials. I mean, you looked really good out there, and obviously again with Carr. I mean, it seems to keep going back and forth, and then you were able to kind of bounce back and wrestle some tough matches. What was your assessment on that tour?
Assessment was I really needed it, even though I lost twice to 2 guys that are very good opponents, but I definitely look back at that wrestling and I'm like, I had more to give. I had better wrestling to do. So I needed it. It was awesome to get that get-back match. Didn't expect that to happen. Was just grateful for the opportunity to wrestle Carr again for the sixth time.
Yeah.
So I was happy to have that. But also just a lot of learning, realizing that the stuff that I was learning this summer just isn't what I primarily need to be implementing. It's the things you learn are just additives, and they're not going to be revolutionizing, changing your wrestling. I thought that's kind of this summer I was trying to add a lot of new skills, and with that comes some ability to use them in a way that's not your primary way of attacking, way of wrestling. How I wrestle was fine. I just need to get better in those areas and more precise, and then adding things on, not changing the whole game. I think the beginning of the summer I was I need to change get back to the drawing board, change everything. Where I realized at that tournament, no, you don't need to change everything. You just need to get better in these positions and add on, not necessarily change your whole identity of your wrestling. And so it was really good for me to get out to that tournament because, one, I wrestled the best of the best. I wrestled NCAA champs, world team members, and just a bunch of really good guys. But going into the first month of college wrestling, still there's so many things that I think that I've improved on, but there's also things that I think I was doing better at the end of the year last year that I need to implement. So it's just trying to find that balance of constantly you're driving down a road and you're always going to be drifting to one side or another, but it's having my coaches and having myself kind of always reflecting on every performance, practices, and skills just to keep me in line on where I'm going to be wrestling my best in what positions, and what are my hands doing, what are my feet doing, just to make sure that I'm going to be ready by March. And I love the fact that we had so many matches in November, and we're going to have December coming up. We have the collegiate duels, which we'll wrestle Penn State, so I'll get to another opportunity to wrestle a really tough opponent who beat me at the World Team Trials, and I love that struggle, and I love the competition early in the year because I would rather struggle now and learn so much more now than in March. Obviously, I want to be refined by March. I want to have gone through some struggle and some hard times, November, December, January, February. So I'm at my best in March, and I can handle the most adversity.
You talked about the weight change for you. I mean, how are you feeling in the new weight? What do you think you were feeling a little bit like struggling with the weight cut at
Yeah,
the weight class down?
I would say I was making weight fine just because like there's an element of discipline in wrestling to like I never felt like I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss weight or making weight's hard. Making weight was never really like I was never worried about it, but it was at the end of the year. I had been wrestling through sickness, and the 4 years I've been wrestling at that weight, and I kind of have a longer frame, not like a little shorter, stockier, and so like I just felt myself. I look at myself at the end of the year. Even my wife was like, "You look so much different. Like your face just was so sucked in," and I just realized by the end of the year, it had gotten to me. Maybe should have been smarter with keeping my body healthy, and I'm not like an invincible robot. I can't just do a limited amount of work, make weight every weekend, wrestle through every sickness, every injury. Like you just can't do that. And by the end of the year, it just all kind of came not crumbling down on me because I still felt like I performed really well. But like I was like, holy cow, man, I'm feeling a whole college season just brick by brick falling on top of me. So the weight change is nice because I'm able to be hydrated more. I've been able to eat more food, and obviously those two things are really important for recovery. And then on top of that, just continuously lifting. Like I not only love lifting for the reason of getting stronger, but also the reason of injury prevention. And we have some of the best strength coaches, in my opinion. Like they're just so catering to your needs, and so many times they'll come in extra help, extra lifts, extra mobility, and stuff like that. And so my body is definitely loving the new weight change. And obviously it's a little different wrestling-wise. Guys are a little bit more hand fighting oriented, and that's something I'm still adjusting to. Whereas if you ever watch me wrestle, I shoot a lot and I like to scramble around a lot. So trying to bring that up into it, but while refining my hand fighting, while refining my shot finishes and things like that. So just always adjusting, and it's Division I college wrestling, so it's never easy. You're always going to have struggles. It's like something that I struggled with 3 months ago isn't what I'm struggling with now, but something that I'm struggling with now isn't something that I was struggling with 3 months ago. So like always that a little adjustment, like always looking, reflecting, and figuring out where you need to lock in your areas.
You were talking about the collegiate duels, that are coming up. Talk about the duel team itself, and how it's been kind of you've wrestled some tough matches, and stuff like that, not going your way. But what have you been kind of as a leader telling this group?
I knew that. I honestly, in my head, I knew it was going to be like that starting because just looking at our schedule, but also like I don't want to make any excuses, but we have a very new team. Like last year we graduated Zach Elam, Peyton Mako, Brock Muller, and those were three staple guys that had been in the lineup for 4+ years. I mean, they all wrestled 5 years starting for Mizzou, and they were all All-Americans. Zach a 2-time All-American, Brock 4-time All-American, Peyton All-American. So it was like you're having so many new guys and just inexperience in the lineup. And when you have the schedule that we did in November with like Virginia Tech, UNI, Illinois, like that's gonna be tough. And I'd rather say it now. I would always rather struggle right now in the beginning because you have so much to correct on. If you're going out there whooping everyone, by the time you get to Big 12's nationals, even late dual season, it's like, well, why are these problems coming up now? Are we getting worse? We're like, no, you just haven't been challenged. You haven't, seen the best wrestlers in the country. And so I knew that we were going to struggle right out the gate. Even myself, I've had some matches where I'm like, I didn't really perform well. My mind was a little bit all over the place, but those are really good things. Like you can't have growth without friction. You can't have growth without struggle. Like, the Bible literally clearly states that, your joy and your glory is the afflictions and the trouble that you go through. So if that's the case, let's not go through as much trouble as we can. Not to say that, you can't overload yourself, but like give yourself the right amount of struggle to get better.
Talk about, the specific duel is you wrestled in, your high school again.
Yeah.
You thought, oh, I'm a senior, this is over, and then now you're pretty much a senior in college, right? And you're wrestling one last time. Tell me that feeling of being back in your home gym.
Yeah, it was just really nostalgic. I pulled up on the bus, and I'm like, man, this is where I went to school. I remember I was like, man, I remember I left study hall to go get my laptop at home, didn't tell anyone. I came back, here I accidentally scraped a dude's car and had to pay for his car paint, just dumb stuff like that. It was just so fun, just super thankful that Coach Smith was willing to do that for not just me. We had Aiden Sinclair, who's from Wisconsin, had Parker Keckeisen and, Ellis Flegger, Jake Stoffel, Connor Thorpe, all the guys on Mizzou and UNI. There's just such good pipelines back to Askren and Wisconsin. And so when we heard about it, it was like probably near the end of the college season last year that we might be doing a dual meet in Wisconsin. And originally it wasn't going to be at my high school, but then that arena that they were going to do it in was too expensive. And I was like, hey, man, talk to our high school coach who's very involved with Wisconsin wrestling, like junior duels teams, stuff like that. And so just kind of in the works and just kind of praying and hoping. And WI wrestled with Jacob Roshka and Nate Arvanego. They just kind of made things work, and they ran their whole event. UFC streamed it. We had a stage, and it was really special to have my high school coach announce my name, like as I was walking out, because he's an announcer too. That man can do everything. Randy Farrell, he's actually the UW Madison's dual meet announcer, and so he does a fantastic job on the MC. And hearing him yell my name, and there was a challenge in my match in the beginning off of a takedown, and I just look over and he's looking at me like he did in high school, and just like clapping, like giving me the same look and the same gestures that he would when I was a junior and senior in high school. So it was just really special. And obviously I got to bring my wife there, I got to bring a bunch of my friends there, and then I was able to stay at home in Wisconsin for Thanksgiving and spend some time with family. So couldn't have been a better break.
During the senior world team trials, you mentioned that wrestling Penn State and wrestling those challenges with Levi Haines, and it didn't go your way. What did you see during that match specifically, and what do you going into this duel coming up in the next couple of months, collegiate duels, what do you think you're gonna see differently?
I wrestled tough. There's no doubt about that. I gave everything I had. I will say there was just so many areas that I look back and I'm like, I'm wrestling in his area, or I'm wrestling not in where I want to be. I know exactly where I like to be in a match, and I look at that match and I'm like, man, my feet were a little flat, like grabbing collar ties a little too much, and that's just not the way I wrestle. There wasn't many scrambles and no flurries going on, and obviously, there was probably an element of he was doing a good job of keeping away from those areas, but at the same time, like, I got to be better about putting myself in areas where I know I can score, and I just didn't think I did a very good job of that. And so looking back from then, there's obviously a lot of areas that I can get back at. And also just like belief and confidence. I know it sounds stupid, but like, I got to go in with a little bit more of like some gusto and being like, hey man, like, you're a great wrestler. You're going to wrestle hard for 7 minutes, and you're going to score as many points as you can, and like not letting your mind veer off of that. Like anytime you feel that doubt or that little voice in the back of your head, that human nature of, oh man, things are getting hard. Like, man, this is difficult. You're not doing too well right now. Like, you have to be able to push those aside. And I think that's something that I'm realizing now is like your mind has to be locked in on some certain key areas for you to perform well. Because if your mind's all over the place, you're just going to be, oh crap, he got to my leg here. Oh crap, I give up a collar tie. Like, you're just going to be playing catch up. And you don't want to be doing that wrestling match against a high level opponent. You want to be playing, I'm 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of you. So.
You said you got married this year and over the summer. Is there a different mindset now that you are married, or is it kind of like, is there a different mindset like, a lot of people like, hey, when they have kids, like, hey, I'm a completely different mindset and everything.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the same thing when you get married, or you go in the same old?
No, I mean, I think kids would be a completely different story. Hopefully I'm going to hold off on those for a while. Know how much they dent your bank account and just time. But no, I think getting married was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it realized that I have to ground myself. Like, I can't be going everywhere, doing everything, and running myself dry, because at the end of the day, my wife's going to come home from work, I'm going to come home for wrestling practice, and if I'd been running myself dry all day and not taking care of my body, not taking care of the house, not taking care of my relationships, like, I'm going to have nothing left to give. And obviously that's how marriages are ruined, is, at the end of the night, you kind of just act like roommates. And so making sure that each day I have intentional time spent with my wife, because I shouldn't have gotten married if that's not the case. She's my best friend. I love spending time with her. And so I need to be able to, at the end of the night, give her the attention and the time that she deserves. And also it's like, from a biblical standpoint, that's my most important relationship now. Like she's my immediate family. Like, there's a reason that says leave and cleave in the Bible. Like, a man will leave his father and mother and then join to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. Like, that, she's a part of me now. And so, like, what happens to her, ultimately what happens to me. What happens in my life, affects her. And so trying to cater and try to nurture my life as well as hers. And obviously I need to do my best in laying down, my needs to serve her. So that's definitely been something that I've been getting used to, is like, because I'm like, oh, I need to train, I need to work. And not that I'm not doing those things, but it's also like I have to be a little bit more selfless in my life, and I think that's a huge skill in like learning patience, to understand that like you just have to do your diligence every day. You know, put the time in, put the man hours in, and not only on the mat, but in your relationship. You know, a great marriage isn't founded the moment you get married. Like a great marriage is formed over years and years and years of just getting another person, like laying down your needs for theirs. Um, and so it's been different, but I love it. I love married life. It's the best thing ever. It's like built-in best friend.
And finally, talk about the excitement level, what's coming up for you, in the immediate future for this team and the rest of the year. How excited are you?
I'm super excited. It's a little bittersweet just because I look in and around and I'm like, man, this will be the last time I'm in the room going through the trenches with these guys. Obviously, I'm going to be competing in freestyle afterwards, but it's going to be a little different. It's a little more individualized with your training. But just trying to soak up everything that I have and trying to give into, like, try to pour into these guys as much as I can. We have so many talented young guys, and we have a great class coming in, like 9 guys or 8 guys of very high caliber wrestlers, and I'm just really looking forward to working with them. But making sure that I just understand what Tiger Style is all about and living it out to the best that I can as a competitor for the rest of the year. Because I only got probably I probably have like maybe 18 to 20 more matches in a Mizzou singlet, and just making sure that I am grateful every time I put that singlet on and give everything I have, because I don't want to look back at the end of the year and be like, man, I was a little conservative here because I was scared to lose, or I was scared to make myself like look bad or anything like that. Making sure I go out there and I own what I do.